Now, I've said it once and I'll say it again, but Disney is nothing more than an outhouse at this point in time because of everything happening across the board of all their divisions, such as Walt Disney Animation Studios, Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, Pixar, and more. All of their divisions are failing one after the other, either through box office disasters or ratings in a constant fallout on Disney+. It's not looking good for this year, and it's most certainly not looking good for 2025, as that year is going to be full of expensive failures, especially under the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Bob Iger is that we know that he has been pretty much really keeping up with the cost-cutting measures and really keeping focus on all productions of Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, and more, and how he could save money as much as possible for the Disney company. Because we all know what happened with Marvel back in November of 2023 with the Marvel's box office situation, and that really kind of forced them to take a steer, right, into a different path. Now, what's interesting about the Rey movie, or as many others like to call it, the New Jedi Order film, or simply the 2026 Star Wars movie, whatever have you, take your pick there. But what's interesting about this is how Bob Iger is already beginning to wreak havoc on the production of that film, on top of how this movie is already unattractive to pretty much the majority of Star Wars fans out there. You know, if you guys did not like The Rise of Skywalker, you most certainly would not like, you know, this upcoming follow-up film that's going to feature yet again another main sequel trilogy character. Now, what's interesting about all of this is that with all divisions over at Disney already heading into failure with cutbacks and firings across the board by Iger, one major development has to do with Disney and what they recently did to the upcoming Rey Star Wars film after serious creative differences took place over at Lucasfilm and drama between Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy having problems with Daisy Ridley getting a pay increase. As a result of not just creative struggles with this film and Bob Iger's cost-cutting measures that are now just starting to go active at all divisions, including Lucasfilm, Bob Iger recently forced serious budgeting cutbacks on the upcoming Rey Star Wars film, which already had a locked-in budget of around, get this, $400 million plus, that is now being dialed down to roughly $230 million. This all comes as a result of Bob Iger beginning to fire employees at Disney across the board, starting with Pixar, then Walt Disney Animation Studios, and Lucasfilm. It will also involve a smaller crew for the Rey movie, the smallest of them yet, to cut back costs for the film as Disney aims to make this movie on a far lower budget. The cost cutting, as it turns out, is what forced Stephen Knight to head into some revisions for the script, specifically for all acts of the film, and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and her payout getting decreased. Now, though surprisingly Daisy Ridley's payout was increased, that sparked the drama between the director and Daisy, along with Kathleen Kennedy, by $5 million after many negotiations with the actress. Now, with the initial budget just a little over, of course, $400 million, this would have been nearly the same budget as The Rise of Skywalker, which, by the way, was around $416 million. The Rey movie, of course, and its budget is now dipping below the budget of the 2018 film Solo: A Star Wars Story, and many scenes in the script as a result for the Rey film are either getting rearranged, scaled down, or deleted to not only create a shorter story with a lower running time, but also a film that will require less CG effects, which will in turn require Disney to hire less animators to handle post-production for the film. After Sharmeen Chinoy was fired from 4 Lucasfilm productions, she is already beginning to head into heated arguments with Disney about these scalebacks for the Rey movie. All of these changes were just applied within the past couple of days, and it's already creating a significant delay in the filming for the movie, which was originally slated to begin by this April. Due to the cutbacks, that is no longer happening, as Disney is now aiming to drop the film by the later portion of 2026 instead of May, and are eyeing a summer principal photography phase. Now, Bob Iger is also making his move to insert more DEI-driven sequences into this movie that have been generally guided by Disney to writer Stephen Knight. Even Kathleen Kennedy had serious differences with Bob Iger's cost-cutting measures and scale-backs, since this is also planned to scale back their marketing funds for the film by roughly 45%, that will result in less ads, trailers, and TV spots for the movie before its debut in theaters. Now, Disney is now looking to shoot at less real locations, as well to reduce spending, and doing more in-studio sequences strictly using stagecraft, which was used heavily in the Kenobi series and other productions. Now let me just stop here quick. I don't know if you guys know what stagecraft is. I want you to kind of imagine the MSG Sphere in Las Vegas. It's kind of like that, where the actors go on a stage, the cast and the crew go on a stage, they film a sequence, there's a screen that wraps around them, and they don't have to necessarily shoot at a real location. And some people have differing opinions on that. You know, some people feel it looks more cheap than an actual on-location shot, and of course it saves time for Disney and Lucasfilm by, of course, traveling expenses and all the actors going across everywhere to hotels and doing all that stuff. So it is a cost-cutting measure in Bob Iger's point of view. Now, when you look at stuff like this further, these cutbacks are also resulting in the removal of some side characters to focus on a tighter cast and a smaller series of characters, along with the cancellation of any references to classic George Lucas Star Wars characters that were mentioned in Steven Knight's initial script for the Rey movie that he is now being forced to write out. Daisy Ridley is reportedly already concerned about the film, which is why Disney organized a public interview with Variety to hype up the movie through positive words provided by Ridley. Now again, we know that this movie very well could end up like Rian Johnson's trilogy. It could very well end up like the David Benioff and D.B. Weiss trilogy. Or let's not forget about all of the other Star Wars films that were announced and cancelled. Do you guys remember Rogue Squadron? Maybe, maybe not. Well, that was another production that was axed. So here's another example, is that when you look at this Rey movie, the fact that Disney is doubling down on really just establishing this to be the first film since 2019, which was also a Rey-focused movie, to return to another Star Wars film where it's universally rejected for that character by a large majority, mind you, of the fan base. So the fact that it's getting so many scalebacks, budgeting-wise and marketing-wise, and even crew members and cast members getting dialed down quite drastically, this movie is already setting itself up for a disaster. You know, we know at the same exact time the fact that Bob Iger is throwing in more DEI nonsense to a degree that's never been seen before in Star Wars can only make you imagine. Right, we all saw what they did at the very end of Episode 9 during the celebration scene, and I can only imagine what they're going to do more in the upcoming films. So, anyway, I would love to hear, what everyone has to say about the upcoming Rey / New Jedi Order film and the drama surrounding it, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.